Lyra Novak adjusted her station uniform and sighed as she prepared the medical bay aboard Celesta Station. As the lead xenobiologist for the Interstellar Coalition, she'd treated dozens of species, but today's diplomatic mission was different. The Australians were notoriously private, and this was their first official delegation after centuries of isolation. Dr. Novak, they're docking now, her assistant Julian reported through the comm. The Australian flagship just arrived with their wounded commander. Lyra nodded, though no one could see her. Prepare the specialized biochamber. Remember, their physiology processes oxygen differently than ours. The doors to the medical bay hissed open. Lyra turned, expecting the usual entourage of diplomatic staff, but instead found herself facing the tallest, most intimidating woman she had ever seen. The Australian stood nearly 7 feet tall, with skin the color of twilight, a rich purple that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. Her features were sharp yet elegant, with high cheekbones and eyes that glowed a soft amber. What caught Lyra's attention most, however, was the jagged scar running from her left temple down to her jaw, cutting through otherwise flawless skin. Commander Vexera Nix, the Australian announced, her voice deep and melodic despite the formal tone. I was told to report directly to you, Doctor. Lyra swallowed, suddenly aware of her racing pulse. Yes, of course. I wasn't expecting you to arrive unescorted. My guards remain at the airlock. I prefer to handle my own affairs. Vexera's gaze swept the medical bay with military precision. I'm told you're the expert on interspecies medicine. I am. Lyra gestured to the biochamber. Please, make yourself comfortable. I understand you were injured during the border skirmish with the Tarvos Collective. Something flashed in Vexeras's eyes, pride, perhaps, or defiance. The reports were exaggerated. I merely intercepted a plasma blast meant for my navigation officer. As Vexera removed her armored overcoat, Lyra caught sight of the wound, a starburst pattern of burns covering her right shoulder and upper back. Despite herself, Lyra gasped. This is hardly merely anything, Commander. You need immediate treatment. Vexera's expression remained stoic as she settled into the chamber. My people heal quickly. Your concern, while professionally appropriate, is unnecessary. Lyra activated the scanner, watching as blue light mapped the Australian's unique physiology. My concern, Commander, is both professional and genuine. Plasma burns can develop secondary infections even in your species. For the first time, Vexera's expression softened slightly. You've studied our medical records extensively. I've been preparing for this meeting for months. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, recognition perhaps, of dedication mirrored in each other. Few humans show such thoroughness, Vexera observed quietly. Few Australians allow themselves to be treated by humans, Lyra countered with a small smile. As Lyra began applying the specialized regenerative gel to the burns, she noticed Vexera watching her hands work with curious intensity. The commander's skin was warm to the touch, with a texture like velvet despite its battle-hardened appearance. Your technique is gentle, Vexera remarked, surprise evident in her tone. All life deserves gentle handling, Commander. Even warriors. For the briefest moment, Vexera's composed facade cracked, revealing something vulnerable beneath. Then it was gone, replaced by her usual stern countenance. The Australian High Command will remain on Celesta for 3 cycle weeks, Vexera stated formally. I suspect I will require follow-up treatment. Lyra nodded, trying to ignore the strange flutter in her chest. I'll be here, Commander. Same time tomorrow? Indeed, Vexera rose, towering over Lyra once more. Until tomorrow, Dr. Novak. As the Australian commander departed, Lyra realized she had been holding her breath. Something about Commander Vexera. Nix fascinated her beyond scientific curiosity. Dangerous prospect given the fragile state of human-Australian relations. Little did she know that this first encounter would alter not just her life, but the course of interstellar politics forever. 3 weeks into the Australian delegation's stay aboard Celesta Station, Lyra found herself looking forward to her daily sessions with Commander Vexera. What had begun as strictly medical treatment had evolved into something neither of them openly acknowledged. Your shoulder has healed remarkably, Lyra noted, her fingers tracing the fading starburst pattern on Vexara's purple skin. The scar tissue had taken on a silvery quality like distant stars against the twilight of her skin. Our biology adapts, Vexara replied, but her usual clipped tone had softened. Though I suspect your treatments accelerated the process. Lyra smiled, stepping back to update her medical log. The credit goes to Australian resilience, Commander. Vexara, the commander, corrected quietly. When we are alone. You may call me Vexara. The simple permission sent a ripple of warmth through Lyra's chest. Then you should call me Lyra. Their eyes met, amber glow meeting human blue, and for a moment, neither looked away. Vexara's hand moved slightly, fingers almost but not quite brushing against Lyra's on the examination table. The moment shattered as Julian's voice came through the cum. Dr. Novak, Director Harlow, is requesting an update on the Australian commander's condition. Lyra pulled her hand back, clearing her throat. Informed the director that Commander Nix is recovering excellently and will be cleared for full diplomatic duties tomorrow. Vexara stood, her impressive height casting a shadow over Lyra. Your director has been particularly interested in my recovery? Marcus is thorough, Lyra said, though privately she had noticed Harlow's unusual attention to the Australian delegation. He's responsible for security during these negotiations. Security, Vexara repeated, the word laced with something like suspicion. Tell me, Lyra, do you trust this Marcus Harlow? The question caught her off guard. He's my superior. Why do you ask? Vexara moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Because there are factions within both our governments who would prefer these peace talks fail. The attack on my ship, it wasn't random. Lyra felt her pulse quicken. Are you suggesting Director Harlow might be involved? I'm suggesting caution. Vexara's hand finally deliberately touched hers, sending an electric current up Lyra's arm. Some see our peoples as too different to ever truly understand each other. And what do you see? Lyra asked, barely breathing. Vexara's amber eyes seemed to glow brighter. I see that differences can be ... complementary. The medical bay doors hissed open, and Vexara stepped back immediately as Director Harlow himself strode in. Flanked by 2 security officers, Commander Nix Harlow nodded stiffly. I trust Dr. Novak is taking good care of you. Exemplary care, Vexara answered, her voice returning to its formal cadence. Harlow's gaze flicked between them, lingering uncomfortably. Good. We wouldn't want anything to compromise your participation in tomorrow's summit. He turned to Lyra. Dr. Novak. A word after you finished here. After he departed, the air felt charged with unspoken tension. He suspects something, Lyra whispered. Vexara reached for her commander's coat, face unreadable. Or he fears something. Either way, be cautious. She paused at the door. The observation deck is empty during 3rd shift. I sometimes go there too. Contemplate the stars was an invitation. Veiled but unmistakable. That night, Lyra found herself on the observation deck, heart racing as she spotted Vexara's tall silhouette against the panoramic view of stars. I wasn't certain you would come, Vexara said, without turning. Neither was I, Lyra admitted, moving to stand beside her. This is ... complicated. The universe is complicated, Vexara replied, finally looking down at her. Yet stars from opposite ends of the galaxy still shine together in the same sky. Under the light of distant suns, they stood close enough that Lyra could feel the warmth radiating from Vexara's purple skin. When the Australian's fingers tentatively entwined with hers, Lyra didn't pull away. Tomorrow's summit will determine the future of our peoples, Vexara murmured. But tonight, ... Tonight is just for us, Lyra finished, turning to face the commander fully. The kiss, when it came, was gentle at first, an exploration of the unknown. Vexara's lips were warmer than a human's, with a subtle sweetness Lyra hadn't expected. As they drew closer, deepening the connection between them, neither noticed the small security camera in the corner of the ceiling, its lens focusing on their forbidden embrace. The Celesta conference room buzzed with tension as delegates from 12 star systems gathered for the historic Peace Summit. Lyra stood along the wall with other senior staff, trying to maintain her professional composure, despite the fact that every time she caught Vexara's sigh from across the room, her heart performed acrobatics in her chest. Last night's kiss had changed everything and nothing. They had parted with the understanding that their personal feelings must remain hidden for the sake of the fragile negotiations. "The Australian delegation looks formidable," Julian whispered beside her. "Especially your patient. Those scars really complete the whole warrior princess vibe." "Commander Nix earned those scars defending her people," Lyra replied, more sharply than intended. Julian raised an eyebrow. "Someone's protective. I was just saying she's impressive." Before Lyra could respond, Director Harlow called the meeting to order. The formal proceedings began with each delegation presenting their position on the disputed Hellion sector. When Vexara rose to speak, her commanding presence silenced the room. "For generations, our peoples have viewed each other through the lens of suspicion," she began, her rich voice carrying easily. "The Australian sovereignty seeks not domination, but coexistence. We propose a joint administrative approach to the Helion sector, with shared scientific and commercial access." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the room. Vexara's proposal was unexpectedly conciliatory, a significant departure from traditional Australian isolationism. Director Harlow's expression darkened slightly before he smoothed it into diplomatic neutrality. "A generous proposal, Commander. However, concerns remain about Australian military presence in the sector. Our defense vessels serve only to protect our colonies just as yours do," Vexara countered smoothly. The debate continued, growing increasingly heated until a recess was called. As delegates dispersed for refreshments, Lyra made her way to a quiet corner, needing a moment away from the political tension. She didn't notice Director Harlow approaching until he spoke directly behind her. "Your work with Commander Nix seems to have been quite thorough, Doctor." "Novak," Lyra turned, maintaining her professional smile. Her recovery exceeded expectations, indeed. Harlow's eyes were cold. "So thorough that you've developed quite the rapport. The observation deck provides a spectacular view, doesn't it?" Ice flooded Lyra's veins. He knew. "I don't understand what you're implying, Director," she said carefully. "Don't insult my intelligence." His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Fraternization with the Australians could destroy everything we've worked for." "My personal life is my own business," Lyra hissed back. "Not when it compromises station security." Harlow gripped her arm, fingers digging painfully into her flesh. "The Australians cannot be trusted. Whatever she's told you, whatever she's made you feel, it's tactical, Doctor. Novak. A military strategy." "Let go of me," Lyra demanded, trying to pull away. "You will end this inappropriate relationship immediately," Harlow continued, tightening his grip. "Or I'll have you remove your hand from her arm immediately." Vexara's voice cut through the air like a blade. Harlow turned, still clutching Lyra. "This is a private conversation, Commander." Vexara's eyes glowed dangerously, her tall form radiating barely contained fury as she strode forward. "I said, remove your hand." When Harlow didn't comply, Vexara moved with lightning speed. Her purple hand shot out, grasping Harlow's wrists and applying precise pressure that made him gasp and release Lyra instantly. "Not sure again," Vexara growled, her voice carrying. "Across the now silent conference room, and the Australian fleet will reduce your orbital defenses to cosmic dust." The threat hung in the air as delegates and staff froze, watching the confrontation with shocked expressions. Harlow massaged his wrist, face contorted with rage and humiliation. "This is exactly why your kind cannot be trusted," he spat. Threats of violence at the slightest provocation. Security. Guards appeared instantly, weapons raised uncertainly as they assessed the standoff between the human director and the Australian commander. Vexara didn't back down. Positioning herself slightly in front of Lyra, "Your director assaulted a member of your medical staff. I merely intervened." "He's right, Vexara," Lyra whispered urgently. "This isn't helping." But it was too late. The damage was done. Delegates from both sides were already retreating to their respective corners, aides whispering frantically into communication devices. The peaceful atmosphere had shattered like glass. The summit is suspended, Harlow announced, straightening his uniform. Commander Nix, you and your delegation will return to your ship pending a security review. Psst. Vexora's jaw tightened, but she nodded stiffly. As she turned to leave with her delegation, her eyes met Lyra's one final time, fierce, apologetic, and filled with something that looked remarkably like love. In the space of 5 minutes, everything had fallen apart. The peace talks, the fragile alliance, and whatever future Lyra had begun to imagine with Vexoral now hanging by the thinnest of threads. Part 4. Worlds apart, the halls of Celesta Station had transformed overnight. Where diplomats once exchanged cordial greetings, security officers now patrolled in pairs. The Australian delegation had withdrawn to their orbiting vessel, and all non-essential communication channels were suspended. Meanwhile, Lyra found herself confined to her quarters, her security clearance revoked, and her reputation in tatters. You've become the station's most interesting scandal, Julian said, sliding through her door with a tray of food and a sympathetic smile. He'd bypassed security protocols to visit a risk to his own standing that Lyra deeply appreciated. Wonderful, she muttered, accepting a cup of steaming tea. Is it the interspecies romance or the diplomatic disaster they're more fascinated by? Julian perched on the edge of her desk. Both honestly? The security footage from the observation deck has made the rounds. Some people are appalled. Others think it's, well, romantic in a forbidden way. Lyra groaned, heat rising to her cheeks. And what do you think? I think, Julian said carefully, that I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at her. Human or otherwise. Ada moved to the viewport, gazing out at the stars and the sleek silhouette of the Australian vessel hovering at a deliberate distance. She's not what everyone thinks, Lyra said softly. All that military bearing, the formality its armor, just like her scars. Underneath, she trailed off. Unable to adequately describe the gentle way Vexora had traced patterns on her skin, or how the commander's voice softened when speaking of her homeworld's twin moons. Harlow is pushing for your dismissal, Julian warned, changing the subject. He's claiming you were compromised, that Vexora was using you to gain intelligence on coalition defenses. Lyra turned, anger flaring. That's absurd. If anything, Vexara was more forthcoming about Australian matters than any diplomat has been in decades. I believe you, Julian assured her. But the Security Council is looking for someone to blame, and you're the easiest target. A soft, distinctive chime from her personal console interrupted them, a sound Lyra didn't recognize. Frowning, she moved to investigate, gasping when she saw the message displayed on her screen. The interface had transformed. Text appearing in both human standard and Australian glyphs. Emergency maintenance required. Level 3. Junction Box 47. AO 200 hours. 7 minute security gap. Come alone if you wish to preserve what matters most. That's not a station alert, Julian observed, peering over her shoulder. No, Lyra whispered, heart racing. It's her. Julian's eyes widened. She's on the station? How? Australian technology has always been more advanced than we give them credit for, Lyra said, a smile tugging at her lips despite the gravity of the situation. Especially their cloaking capabilities. Can't seriously be considering I am, Lyra. Cut him off, already mentally calculating the route to sublevel 3. And before you try to talk me out of it, remember that Vexora wouldn't risk exposure without good reason. Julian sighed, running a hand through his hair. At least let me help. I can adjust the internal sensors in that section, buy you a few extra minutes. Lyra embraced him tightly. Thank you. At exactly 0157 hours. Lyra slipped through the dimly lit corridors of sublevel 3, heart pounding in her ears. The maintenance section was deserted as promised, bathed in the dull red glow of emergency lighting. She reached junction box for 7A and waited, every nerve-ending alert. A faint shimmer in the air was her only warning before Vexara materialized before her, the Australian cloaking technology deactivating with a soft hum. The commander wore a form-fitting stealth suit rather than her formal uniform, her purple skin seeming to absorb the red emergency lights. You came, Vexara said, relief evident in her voice. Lyra stepped forward, fighting the urge to throw her arms around the tall Australian. Of course I came. But what are you doing here? The risk is necessary, Vexara finished, her amber eyes intense. I discovered something disturbing before my delegation was recalled. She produced a small data crystal, its facets glinting in the dim light. This contains communication logs between Director Harlow and several known extremist groups, both human and Australian. He's been orchestrating diplomatic failures for years, Lyra. The attack on your ship, Lyra began, understanding dawning, was arranged to prevent these peace talks from progressing. Vexara confirmed grimly. The Hylian sector dispute is a fabrication, a convenient excuse to maintain tension between our peoples. Lyra accepted the crystal, her mind racing with implications. This is enough to destroy him. But why give it to me? Why not take it directly to your high command? Something vulnerable flickered across Vexara's features. Because I trust you. And because I'm leaving, the words hit Lyra like a physical blow. Leaving when? Don, Vexara said softly. Our ship has been recalled to Australis. But she hesitated, something uncharacteristically uncertain in her posture. I have requested reassignment to the Astral Seeker. The scientific vessel? Lyra asked, confusion mingling with the ache of impending separation. Yes. Its mission is deep space exploration, far from military concerns and political machinations. Vexara moved closer, her height casting a shadow over Lyra in the narrow space. I am tired of war, Lyra, of suspicion and politics. The Seeker offers a different path, one of discovery rather than destruction. Understanding blossomed in Lyra's chest, along with a wild, impossible hope. And why are you telling me this? Vexara reached out, her purple fingers tracing the contour of Lyra's cheek with exquisite gentleness. Because the Seeker needs a xenobiologist. One familiar with multiple species physiologies, one with an open mind regarding interspecies cooperation. The unspoken invitation hung between them, breathtaking in its implications. You want me to come with you? Lyra whispered. To leave everything behind? I want... Vexara's voice, normally so controlled, wavered slightly. I want to discover the universe with you by my side, but I cannot ask you to abandon your life here. My life here? Lyra gave a hollow laugh. I'm confined to quarters, facing dismissal, possibly criminal charges. Harlow has seen to that, which is why I brought you this, Vexara said, indicating the data crystal still clutched in Lyra's palm. It gives you a choice. Stay and clear your name by exposing Harlow's conspiracy, or come with you, Lyra finished, the possibility simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. The faint sound of a security sweep echoed from a nearby corridor. Their time was running short. The Astral Seeker completes its current mission in 3 months, Vexara said urgently. If you choose to stay, use the evidence. If you choose to join me... She pressed something else into Lyra's hand, a small communication device of clearly Australian design. This will reach me no matter where the Seeker travels. Impulsively, Lyra reached up, pulling Vexara down to her level and capturing her lips in a fierce kiss. The Australian responded immediately, strong arms encircling Lyra and lifting her slightly off the ground. Unlike their first, tentative kiss on the observation deck, this one carried the weight of separation and longing, of futures uncertain but desperately desired. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, the security sweep sounded much closer. You must go, Vexara whispered, reluctantly setting Lyra back on her feet. 3 months, Lyra promised, clutching both the data crystal and the communication device. Give me 3 months to finish this properly. To make sure no one like Harlow can sabotage peace again. Pride and something deeper shone in Vexara's amber eyes. I would expect nothing less from you. Her hand caressed Lyra's hair one last time. Until we meet among the stars, my Lyra. The cloaking technology reactivated, and Vexara vanished from sight, though Lyra could feel her presence for a moment longer, warmth that lingered before fading away. As she made her way back to her quarters, Lyra's mind was already formulating a plan. She would use Vexara as evidence, but carefully building an airtight case against Harlow while protecting her own position. Not for her career's sake, but for what would come after. In 3 months, she would need to be free to answer, when the stars called her name. In her quarters, Lyra examined the Australian communication device more closely. It was elegantly designed, with a crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. When she pressed it between her palms, it warmed instantly. And she knew somehow that across the void of space, Vexara had felt her touch. 3 months, she whispered again to the empty room, a promise and a plan taking shape in her heart, and then a new journey begins. She tucked the device under her pillow and turned her attention to the data crystal, determination replacing uncertainty. She had work to do, a conspiracy to unravel, a reputation to restore, and a future among the stars to prepare for. For the first time since the diplomatic disaster, Lyra smiled. Worlds apart they might be for now, but not for long. 87 days. That's how long it had been since Vexara's departure. Lyra kept count in her journal, alongside her careful documentation of evidence against Director Harlow. It had been painstaking work accessing encrypted communications, tracking suspicious fund transfers, documenting meetings with known extremists from both human and Australian fringe groups. Today, she would present everything to Admiral Chen, the newly arrived Interstellar Coalition investigator. Today, after nearly 3 months of caution and fear, the truth would finally emerge. You understand the gravity of these accusations, Dr. Novak? Admiral Chen asked, her weathered face serious as she reviewed the data packet Lyra had compiled. Completely, Admiral. Director Harlow has been orchestrating diplomatic failures between our peoples for years. The attack on Commander Nix's ship wasn't random, it was coordinated to sabotage any possibility of alliance. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. And your relationship with Commander Nix doesn't color your assessment? Lyra held her gaze steadily. My personal feelings make me more determined to uncover the truth, not distort it. Every claim in that file is backed by evidence. After what seemed like an eternity, Admiral Chen nodded. Security teams are already moving to detain Director Harlow and his associates. Your work here is exceptional, Dr. Novak, though your methods were unorthodox. Relief flooded through Lyra. It was over. Finally over. There's one more thing, Admiral Chen continued, sliding a data chip across the desk. This arrived for you through diplomatic channels this morning. From the Astral Seeker. Lyra's heart leaped as she took the chip with trembling fingers. Thank you, Admiral. The Astral Seeker will be docking at Celesta tomorrow at 0900, Chen said with the ghost of a smile. I understand they are seeking to establish a joint scientific mission. They'll need a liaison. Hope blossomed in Lyra's chest as she clutched the chip. I believe I'm qualified for that position. Admiral Chen stood, signaling the end of their meeting. I believe you are uniquely qualified. Dr. Novak, report to Docking Bay 7 tomorrow morning, and ... Congratulations. Back in her quarters, Lyra inserted the data chip with shaking hands. Vexara's image appeared immediately, her purple skin luminous, her amber eyes filled with an emotion Lyra had seen only in their most private moments. Lyra Vexara's recorded voice filled the room. If you are watching this, it means Admiral Chen has arrived, and your mission is complete. I never doubted you would succeed. A small, proud smile curved her lips. The Australian High Command has reviewed the evidence we gathered. Combined with your findings, it was enough to convince even the most skeptical members that peace between our peoples is not only possible, but necessary. Vexara's expression softened further. The Astral Seeker has been redesignated as a joint mission vessel. The first of its kind crewed by both humans and Australians working side by side. We require a xenobiologist with expertise in cross-species medical care. But more importantly, she paused, vulnerability visible even across the vast distance of space. I require you, Lyra Novak, by my side as my equal, my partner in all things. The message ended with coordinates and a time. Tomorrow at 0900, exactly when the Admiral had mentioned. Lyra spent the night packing her few personal possessions and writing farewell messages to colleagues. To Julian, she left her research notes and a bottle of rare earth whiskey they'd been saving for a special occasion. This, she decided, qualified. The next morning, Lyra arrived at Docking Bay 7 well before the scheduled time. As the massive doors slid open to reveal the sleek form of the astral seeker, her breath caught in her throat. It was beautiful, a perfect blend of Australian bioengineering and human technological innovation. But it was the lone figure standing at the bottom of the boarding ramp that truly captured her attention. Vexera looked different. Gone was the formal military uniform, replaced by the more practical attire of a scientific expedition leader. Her purple hair, usually bound tightly for battle, now fell in loose waves around her shoulders. But her eyes, those glowing amber eyes, remained the same. Lighting up as they found Lyra, they moved toward each other slowly. Aware of the crew members and station personnel watching their reunion, professional decorum, Lyra reminded herself. This was still a formal occasion. All thoughts of decorum evaporated when they stood face to face. "You succeeded," Vexera said softly, pride evident in her voice. "We succeeded," Lyra corrected. "Your evidence was crucial." Vexera glanced around at the bustling docking bay, then back to Lyra. "There is much to discuss about the mission. New species to study, uncharted worlds to explore." "Is that all you want to discuss, Commander?" Lyra asked, a smile tugging at her lips. Something playful flashed in Vexera's eyes. "Protocol suggests we should maintain professional distance during this transition period. And what does Vexera, not the commander, suggest?" In answer, Vexera reached out, her purple fingers intertwining with Lyra's pale ones in full view of everyone present. A murmur rippled through the onlookers, but neither woman paid any attention. "The astral seeker awaits," Vexera said, her voice low and intimate despite their public setting. "As do I." Hand in hand, they ascended the boarding ramp together. At the top, Vexera paused, turning to face the gathered crowd below. With formal precision, she addressed them. "Today marks a new chapter in relations between our peoples. The Astral Seeker's mission represents our shared future, one of discovery, understanding, and unity." Gaze returned to Lyra, softening visibly. Sometimes the greatest discoveries begin with a single connection. As the ship's doors closed behind them, sealing them into their new shared life, Vexera drew Lyra into her arms. This time, there were no security cameras, no political complications, no worlds keeping them apart. Just two beings who had found in each other something worth crossing the stars for. "Welcome home," Vexera whispered against Lyra's lips. And as they sealed their reunion with a kiss, Lyra knew that home wasn't Celesta Station, or Earth, or even the Astral Seeker. Home was here, in the arms of her purple-skinned warrior. Among the stars that had once seemed to keep them apart, but now served as the backdrop for their shared journey, the universe, with all its vast complexity, had brought them together against impossible odds. And now, that same universe stretched before them, full of wonders waiting to be discovered, side by side.